Brad Williams, Excel Prime. Let's talk about random times. Again, we're going to use the rand function, and we're going to set, we can set parameters and guidelines if we want a specific timeline. What I mean by timeline is we have an appointment. We want some randomness here. So here's a setup. We have rand. We have 11 and 6. We know rand is going to generate something like this. So hit F9, and this is just rand. And it's going to be a decimal between 0 and 1. Here we have 11 minus 6. We have a 5-hour time period. So what does that mean? In short, we can go to 0 to 1. So this number here multiplied, you can see this math here, rand times 11 minus 6. We know it's 5, but we know rand can be 0 or 1. So the max here could be 12 or 5 or anything in between there. So if we go 12 plus 6, what does that tell us? Well, that's 6 a.m., right? That would be 12 o'clock would be 0. So if this, let's hit this F9. And let's see if we can get close to 0. Keep going. No, that's 4, 7, 9, 5. Okay, here's 0, 4. See, it's 12:57 a.m. That's close to 0, right? Or, yeah, 1. Or it's really actually closer to 1. But, no, I'm sorry. All this stuff needs to go away. Why don't we just keep doing this? F9, 2, 5, 2, 3, 5, 1, 5. Okay, that's close enough. You could see this would be on a 1 to 5 scale would be closer to 1. But because time is converted, we're going to look at 12:47. Add 6 to it. 6:47. The point here is we're setting this timeline for appointments between 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. Why? Well, because there's a 5-hour window. And rand can pick anything between 0 and 5. Then you add 6, right? Because the timing starts at 12 a.m. This random time can go all the way up to 5, F9. See, now we want a high number right here. You see where it says 433? It's a nice little trick. But the thinking, the logic is, it's not something you're going to sit around the dinner table and talk about. All right, it's just not something we contemplate, but here is the logic. Here's the math. Right? I've broken down how we're parsing this thing. We can break this down into minutes. We can break it down into hours. Here we're using the upper. If you want to limit the hours used by rand, you can use this general formula. Because Excel can recognize time values, and that's what we're trying to look at here. Even though this timeline is 5 hours, we have to be able to convert that into relative terms. Again, look at this formula, rand times. You could say rand times 0 minus 5, or 5 minus 0, or 5 minus, you can't go 5 minus 0 because it's going to be 5. But it's going to be a random number between 0 and 5. And then you add 6 to it. The conversion would be plus 6. So we have 4.3 plus 6 is 10. I know. You're thinking time and math. We just have to use a little conversion here. Because Excel can recognize these values, you can get time values between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. with a formula like this. Well, that should be 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. There's no way we can go to 11 p.m. Typo, not a big deal. But we can hit this. If we can get this rand to 999, it'll prove the point. Or close to 0. 94, that's 1039. If this was 9999, I'll just put that in there. 0.999999. It's going to be really close to 11. All right. If we put this at 0, it should be at 6. And there you go. If you can't figure out the logic, do what I did. Break it down. Rand, 5 hours. This is the conversion. All we're doing is taking rand times 5. 11 minus 6, 11 minus 6. The outcome is this number times this number. That's an hour and 48 minutes. Then you add 6 to it, 748. Now you can change this. You can put this at 3 or 9 or 18. Now, if you go past midnight, you know you're going to have to add 13 or 14 or what have you, okay? There's a little versatility in terms of the rand function, the floor function. I mean, the rand and the 11 minus 6 deal. In terms of this other, here we go, 317, we have floor rand 01. And what does that do? That's increments of 1 minute. That means within rand, it's going to pick a rand time. We're just going to get increments of 1 with floor. You can use the rand function with the floor function to generate random times at a specific interval. Here's the formula. Floor rand that generates a random time at 1 minute intervals. The rand function generates a decimal number between 0 and 1. So you might get an output like this, 3.6, whatever cells, all right? Dates and values are defined as numbers where 24 is equal 1 day. This means you can divide hours by the decimal value of the time to get a value that corresponds to time as Excel sees it. For example, 524 is equal to 5 hours, is equal to 0.21 days. This means we can use rand to generate a decimal value between 1 and 0, then round that number down with the floor to the nearest interval. Floor takes an argument called significance. Here's the significance as the rounding multiple, and it recognizes the time interval expressed like this. 0.5 is equal to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 35 minutes. So if you change this to 0.5, we're going to get 5. See, we're going to get intervals of 5 minutes. The rand function is picking a number, okay, and then it's converted over. Brad Williams, Excel Prime.